Good evening. I'm Reverend Jim Webb, Senior Minister of the Tacoma Metaphysical Chapel in Silver Spring, Maryland, and author of the book, The Soul of Prosperity, which was just released in audiobook format. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here this evening, and I'm happy because sometimes we look at things that are barriers to our prosperity, and sometimes we look at things that can help our prosperity. But no matter what we do, week after week after week, my goal is that you go deeper into your journey of prosperity in all the ways that prosperity can manifest for you. So my question is always, what type of prosperity would you like to manifest? Would you like to manifest relationship prosperity, where all of your relationships are supportive and uplifting and affirming? Would you like to experience logistical prosperity, where your life just works easily, effortlessly, and joyfully? Or would you like to experience spiritual prosperity, where you feel a deep sense of peace, satisfaction, and security no matter what? Or perhaps financial prosperity, where your finances are a source of joy and abundance and no longer a source of worry? Or would you rather experience general prosperity, where you always just simply have a general feeling of well-being, or romantic prosperity, where your romantic relationships are joyful and uplifting, no matter what type of prosperity you want to experience, or all the types of prosperity you choose to experience, we can help you. So tonight, I'm going to begin with a question, which is based on the theme of our show for tonight. The theme of our show for tonight is working the X factor of prosperity. Working the X factor of prosperity. So I've got a little joyful question for you. And the first person who answers this question correctly is going to win a free copy of the audio version of The Soul of Prosperity. So get your typing fingers ready if you want a free audio version of The Soul of Prosperity. So my question is, what is the X factor of prosperity? What is the X factor of prosperity? And we'll wait in the comments section, and the first person who gets it right will win a free audio version of The Soul of Prosperity. So while you're typing, we're going to go on. We're going to go on while you're typing, and I'll wait. And while we are waiting for the right answer to come up, and you can guess more than once. While we're waiting for the right answer to come up, I'm going to talk about the X factor of prosperity. The X factor of prosperity is the one spiritual principle or spiritual practice that can enhance your prosperity in every aspect of your life. And we got a winner, Joel Jordan. Joel Jordan, forgiveness is the X factor of prosperity. And so Joel Jordan will win a free audio version of The Soul of Prosperity. So what is forgiveness? And let's understand why it is the X factor of prosperity. And so I'm going to go to one of my favorite verses in A Course in Miracles, Lesson 122. The title of Lesson 122 is Forgiveness Offers Everything I Want. And A Course in Miracles lesson 122 says, what could you want that forgiveness cannot give? Do you want peace? Forgiveness offers it. Do you want happiness? A quiet mind, certainty of purpose, a sense of worth and beauty that transcends the world? Do you want care and safety and the warmth of sure protection always? Do you want quietness that cannot be disturbed, a gentleness that cannot be hurt, a deep abiding comfort, and a rest so perfect it can never be upset? Forgiveness offers all of these. So how does forgiveness offer all of these? Because forgiveness puts us in a state that enables us and causes us to allow prosperity. But we've got to understand forgiveness as it really is. And that's where A Course in Miracles lesson 134 comes in. How can we use prosperity how can we use forgiveness as the X factor of prosperity? And A Course in Miracles lesson 134 says, let us review the meaning of forgive, for it is apt to be distorted and to be perceived as something that entails an unfair sacrifice or righteous wrath, a gift, unjustified or undeserved, and a complete denial of the truth. In such a view, forgiveness must be seen as a mere eccentric folly, and this course appears to rest on salvation as a whim. This twisted view of what forgiveness means is easily corrected. You see, forgiveness is the X factor of prosperity when it is used correctly. But quite often we've misused forgiveness. How have we misused forgiveness? We've misused forgiveness when we do this. I forgive you, but I shouldn't because I'm righteous in my wrath. I forgive you, but I shouldn't because I'm righteous in my victimhood. I forgive you, but you don't deserve my forgiveness because you're this and you're that and you're the other thing. How many of us have forgiven begrudgingly? If you've forgiven begrudgingly, you haven't forgiven at all. You have misused and distorted forgiveness. You haven't forgiven if, when you quote forgive, you've used it as a verb and you've bestowed it upon someone else. What if forgiveness wasn't a verb? What if forgiveness was a state of being that you attained? What if forgiveness was a different view? And let me give you an example of forgiveness as a different view. If there is something that your ego believes must be forgiven, you have viewed yourself as a victim. You have viewed yourself as unlovable, and therefore someone has treated you unlovingly. You have viewed yourself as unworthy, and therefore someone has withheld from you. You have viewed yourself as wrong or sinful, and therefore someone has punished you or withheld from you. But when you see things differently, because the essence of a course is let me see things differently, you view yourself as beloved. You view yourself as perfect. You view yourself as whole, holy, right, and good, just as you are. And when you view yourself this way, it is impossible for someone else's opinion or action to compromise your sense of well-being. So you are in a state of forgiveness with yourself, and you are in a state of forgiveness with the other, for you are in a state of harmony. You are in a state of peace. You are in a state where there is not any conflict between you. You are okay, and they are okay. So what if forgiveness is a state to be attained and not something to be given to some undeserving victimizer? What if you were never a victim? What if you were never wrong? What if you were never inadequate? What if you were never guilty and therefore punishable? What if you were just as you were created by God, whole, holy, perfect, and complete? And what if you just forgot that for a moment? And in that lapse, someone treated you like something that you were not. You get back into the state of your wholeness and holiness, and the way they treated you or what they did doesn't matter. So forgiveness as a state that we attain when we see ourselves as God sees us is a state of being. And in the state of being, we are whole, we are holy, and we are worthy. And when we are whole, holy, and worthy, what are we going to attract? We're going to attract an outer reflection of our inner peace. We're going to attract that which we believe we deserve, which is everything. We're going to attract a reflection of the love that we feel within when we remember that we are at one with our Creator, which is love. And when we cultivate that love from within. So, forgiveness is an inner state that we cultivate through prayer, through meditation, and through connection with the divine source that is always loving us. For that divine source will love the rough edges off of us. It will love our resentments out of us. It'll love our fears away. It will love the pain away from our psyches as we continue to be in union with it. So what we're going to talk about tonight is working that X factor, working the X factor of forgiveness. And when I say we are going to discuss it tonight, I mean we because I'm not alone. I have an esteemed guest and one of your favorite guests on this show. My esteemed guest is Edward Miller. He is the author of Soul Power. He is also a powerful Buddhist. He is a powerful teacher. He's studied so many different disciplines, and he is here with us tonight. We're so honored to have him. And so what I want to do first, Ed, is I want people to understand a little bit more deeply your course of study and exploration so that they can understand where you're coming from when you speak on these subjects.
Yeah, I appreciate that. First of all, thank you again for inviting me on your podcast. I love conversations with you. They're so open-hearted and transformative. So thank you again for that. I was a man that was very contracted in myself. I was under a lot of stress. I was unhappy. But outside, it looked as though I had a very, beautiful life. I had a beautiful family. I had a big, successful business, but I was so wounded and unhappy. And I learned a practice about 15 years ago called the Ho'oponopono. And it's become the staple of my teaching because it's so simple and because it's all about relating to yourself in a new way. In a new intimate way. And it's the practice has two parts. One is the mantra. And I've talked about this mantra many, many times before. And I think it's just so incredible and so transformative. The mantra is, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me and thank you. Yeah, that's it. Again, please. Yeah, that's it. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And thank you.
One more time.
Yeah. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Thank you. Thank you. And if you listen to the mantra, all the parts of it are dealing with our spiritual concepts of gratitude and forgiveness and love and devotion. So it's a beautiful relationship. And that mantra is never spoken to anything in the world. It's not anything out there that mantra is relating to. That mantra is a relationship with yourself. So the
Yes.
second part to Ho'oponopono is that you realize, and it's very much like the Course in Miracles, is that, when you are in relationship with yourself, when you are in self-love relationship with yourself, and when you are when you have awareness of what you're still stuck in, what you're still believing, what's still painful to you, when you let go of that in forgiveness, it opens up yourself for inspiration. Divine inspiration is allowed to be, swept over you once you let go in forgiveness. So you talk about the prosperity of forgiveness. Oh my God. Once we stop holding on to all these crappy little ideas and thoughts and thinking small and being resentful and feeling jealous and all these things that we then feel shame for because we're feeling them. You
Yes.
start to let go of that. Oh my
Yes.
God, the universe replaces it with abundance.
Yes.
It replaces it with grace.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
that's why the Ho'oponopono has been such an important tool for me.
Absolutely. And I love what you said. When you walk around with resentments, just like, some parents used to say, I'll give you something to cry for. If you walk around filled with resentment, you're putting that energy out there. And the universe is going to give you something else to resent. Amen?
That's right. That's right. It's only going to be what you believe. Exactly.
Exactly. And that's why I love Ho'oponopono. Because what Ho'oponopono does is it puts you in an inner state of forgiveness.
Yes.
And I would like for us to break that down a little bit more tonight, starting with the first part of Ho'oponopono, I love you.
Yeah.
Now, quite often when we think about I love you, we think about I love you as I love you outside of me. I love you. But what if that I love you was something we said simply to invoke the vibration of love?
Yeah. And also we're saying I love you to our innocence.
Yes.
The part of us that isn't bearing anything. The truth of who we are, the truth of our nature. We're saying I love you. And we're boosting up that love energy to the truth of our nature.
Yes, because our essence is love. There's a lesson in the Course in Miracles. I am still as God created me. Love created me like itself. Before I forgot about love, before I learned shame, before I forgot that I was one with God, when I remembered my oneness with God, before I forgot that I was divine, when I was in my divine essence, I was and am love.
Yes.
And so I love you. It sounds like that connects us with that essence once again. Is that accurate, Ed?
You got it, brother. That's it.
All right. Thank you. I'm learning something from you,
know
my
what
brother.
it is. We need to start becoming aware that that's what we are in our true nature. And that really does take a diligence.
Yes.
We are love. We are the space.
Yes. Let's work with that for a second. Yes. Just like we work with forgiveness. Love is not what you do. Love is what you are. That's what I hear you saying. Yes. Just like forgiveness is not what you do. Forgiveness is a state you attain. Love is not what you do to somebody else. Love is what you are, which attracts love to you and makes you aware of the love that has been hiding in plain sight.
Yes.
Would that be accurate?
Yeah, and you know what's very interesting, Reverend Jim? Love is always hiding in plain sight.
Yes.
And it's usually right behind our ego.
Yes.
That shallow ego that's always telling us, like you talked about before, the righteousness. Behind that righteousness is beautiful love.
But the wounded ego, doesn't see it, because the wounded ego, just like we have selective perception, and in my book, I talk about how we have 400,000 pieces of information every second, but we can only consciously be aware of 2,000. The wounded ego seeks out that which justifies its wounds. So there could be all kinds of love all the way around. And all we see is that which justifies our ego's wounds. And in the same way that if you've got a beautiful room that has this beautiful wallpaper on it, and somebody says, oh, what beautiful wallpaper that is, You say, yeah, but look at that spot right there, right near the electrical outlet where it's off center, where it's torn a
Exactly.
little
I don't want that.
bit.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so love is hiding in plain sight
it is.
right behind the ego. I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now let's go to the second part of that. I'm sorry. And I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
want to break that down a little bit
I
because
think I'm sorry is penance to the idea that we're on the hook for something. We're
thank you.
free, we're love, we're unconditioned, we are on the unmanifested. I'm sorry, it's just is the remembering.
Yes.
It's the remembering. Oh, I'm stuck in some stuff. Please forgive me. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Yes. Yes. And that's so wonderfully freeing because one of the questions we have that someone just sent to me is, I love Ho'oponopono. However, when I say I'm sorry, I feel guilt. And that seems to be the antithesis of what we're talking about.
Could I
And
comment to that?
absolutely.
I've been teaching this practice for a lot of years now. And when people are triggered with I'm sorry, that means it's just coming up to be cleaned.
Thank you.
It's coming up to be released.
Yes.
And if it feels funny, if it feels like you're guilty, then please forgive me. I'm sorry. It's nothing wrong.
Yes,
so
of course.
If it triggers something, be aware that you're still on the hook for something, or you believe you're on the hook for something.
And A Course in Miracles tells us you are forgiven, yet there is nothing to forgive.
Yes.
And I love that, and I love making that real.
I do too.
I love making that real. There is nothing to forgive. And I want to use an example because some of you know I was a bit of a bastard child. So I understand and identify with adopted children, children who have had foster parents, children who came late or accidentally, or children who may not have been raised by their parents of origin. And I know that there's a lot of hurt there because a child born under those circumstances feels unwanted, unloved. But I also understand that pain must be released in a therapeutic way where they will not harm themselves or another, because they, like me, have carried that pain. And we all carry pain. There was a line in Dreamgirls where Effie White said, but I'm feeling pain. And the whole course of Dreamgirls said, Effie, we all got pain. And we can heal and support that pain by going into our meditative state, going into counseling, going to God and releasing that. There's a chapter in my book on emotional release that talks about releasing the emotions of pain, releasing that hurt, releasing that shame, releasing anything unlike love, giving it to God so that the void that is created is filled with the light and love of God that couldn't get in because those old hardened emotions were blocking it.
Yes.
And that might address how we can move the hurt out of the way to make room for the love that gets us into a state of forgiveness. What do you think? What do you think?
Oh my God, that's so accurate. One of the things that I've learned about when we do get triggered and we feel like our wounds have been pushed and we're feeling some emotions and they're coming up. We don't have to do anything but allow that emotion.
Yes.
Allow that energy. Don't label it. Don't call it anything, but be kind to yourself and just allow whatever is there to be expressed in love.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. The first 3 steps, and I'm going to actually do something very cool, or at least I hope you all think it's cool. I'm going to give away another free copy of the audio version of The Soul of Prosperity this evening to the person who in chat tells me which chapter is the chapter that covers the 7 steps of emotional release, because I can't remember which chapter it is right now, and I'm not going to be thumbing through the book. So the first person who tells me which chapter that is will get a free audio version of The Soul of Prosperity. Because the first 3 steps are: have the emotion, don't suppress it, because everything you press down goes into your body, it works against you. Yes. Number 2, honor the emotion. This is not something to be ashamed of. Honor it, because this is a guidepost for your healing. And number 3, honor yourself. You're not a bad person, less Christian or less spiritual because you're having an emotion. You are more alive because you are aware of what is standing between you and your good. So that kind of mirrors what you were saying, which is, don't be ashamed of your emotions. Allow them to express. For when they express, they move from you. So that hardened heart that breaks in pain,
it does,
can be filled with the light of love that couldn't get there because your heart was hardened.
Yes. That's perfect.
Yeah. So let's see who's going to win a copy of an audio version of the book, The Soul of Prosperity. We'll see who wins it. Time will tell. So that was the second part, which is I'm sorry. And you know what? Sometimes I do, Ed, with I'm sorry. If it has some connotations that seem to be inconsistent with what A Course in Miracles says, there is nothing to forgive. Deanna Eccles, Deanna won. It's chapter 9. So Deanna wins a free audio copy. But you know what I sometimes do? I translate that into Spanish and I say lo siento. Because when I say lo siento, it approximates what I'm going through by saying I'm sorry. I'm feeling something, and I'm feeling something that I want to be transformed. So when I say lo siento, I'm really saying I feel something that I am ready to transform. So let's go to the third part. Please forgive me.
Yes.
So, what would you say about that, Ed?
Well, please forgive me is, it's very basic to me. It's the remembrance of the truth of our nature. Please forgive me for forgetting and believing that I'm all these stories that my mind is coming up with. Please forgive me for believing that what I'm feeling right now is wrong. Please forgive me for any story I have that separates me from God. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Now, you don't always have to be so literal and please forgive me. Just get used to asking for that forgiveness. Please forgive me. When I'm driving down the street and I see a terrible accident, my mind is registering something bad is happening, something this is wrong. And what I do is I go right to please forgive me. Please forgive me, because what I'm allowing myself to do is create the space for the love to come into that experience. If there's love, if there's an opportunity for love, let me release the trauma and bring the love on. Let me be the remembrance of that, of the truth.
Oh, wow. That's so fascinating. In other words, you're saying, please clear and heal my mind.
Yes.
Let me heal my mind of all those judgments of myself. Let me heal my mind of all those judgments of someone else. Let me heal my mind of all the judgments of this situation.
Yes.
So please forgive me. It's simply, let me heal and clear my mind. So my mind holds only the thoughts I think with God, which is another set of lessons in A Course in Miracles. Let me heal and clear my mind.
That's right.
So my mind holds only the thoughts of God, for the thoughts of God are love. The thoughts of God are loving. The thoughts of God are transformative. The thoughts of God are expansive. The thoughts of God are joyful. So let me clear my mind so that I think only what I think with God. So that could be that's a fascinating way to look at please forgive me and what it can do for us and in allowing our prosperity. Because you know what some people notice is that when you clear your mind, you get that divine inspiration, that $1 million idea, that idea that spurs you on to do something that you weren't ready to do yet or were unwilling to do, or a new insight. And that's a way that we allow prosperity, by clearing our mind so God's divine idea can move through us, and that can bring us more good.
Absolutely. You know, we all get triggered and we all see problems. You know, our minds are always triggered and seeing problems. But when you can have a please forgive me consciousness perpetually always in motion, you can always you let yourself off a hook for even your transgressions. You know, your ego's transgress. You know, that's not. Please forgive me. You know, let me remember who I am.
Yes.
Let me remember who I'm not.
Yes.
I'm not this ego. I'm not this problem.
Yes.
I'm not this lack or limitation.
Yes.
I'm here representing the space of love.
Yes.
Yes.
Now let's go to the last one, which I love. And I have to send a shout out to our beloved Carlisa. And the reason that I have to send a shout out to our beloved Carlisa is because she kept saying thanksgiving, thankfulness, 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 thankfulness as the X factor of prosperity. And it is an X factor of prosperity. So Carlisa, I'm going to send you a free copy of the audio version of The Soul of Prosperity. Folks, don't get spoiled. This is only happening one night. Like that song, one night only. One night only. That's all I have to give.
One night only. Oh, I know that song.
So don't get spoiled. Don't think, oh, next week I'll guess right, honey. There will not be a next week. I got bills to pay. So I'm going to send you a copy, a free copy of the audio version of The Soul of Prosperity, Carlisa, because you said Thanksgiving was the X factor of prosperity, and it is one. Tell us about the fourth component of Ho'oponopono.
Gratitude. Well, you know, it's interesting about the gratitude. Just think if you were always in perpetual gratitude, what your life would be like. Everything that comes up is an opportunity to clean and to let go and to love. And you give gratitude for that. Every thought that you have that you're able to go back to zero, go back to the space, go back to love. Thank you for that. Thank you for the awareness. Thank you for the peace. Thank you for the truth of who I am. Thank you for all the opportunities and all these triggers and wounds are able to give me so that I can be more and have more access to love.
Yes.
It's all about the love, man.
Yes. So quite often I say, thank you for showing me no so that I can choose yes instead.
Yeah.
Anytime I have a stumble, thank you for showing me no so that I can choose yes instead. Thank you for the step along the path, for the stumbling block of no will get me to yes. Amen?
Yes.
So thank you is an important part of that. Now, just to summarize this a little bit, because we're going to come back and we're going to talk about it some more on the other side of the break. But just to summarize it a little bit, these four components of Ho'oponopono put us in a state of oneness, wholeness that allows and attracts prosperity.
Yes.
Because they put us in a state of forgiveness. So I know you all might have some questions about this. So I want you to put on your thinking caps. And I know we've had a couple already because I'm getting some on my private text as well. But I want you to put on your thinking caps because we're going to answer your questions on the other side of the break. And I know you have some more. Okay? So for now, we're going to prepare to go to break. And on the other side of the break, we'll be back to answer your questions. So you're watching the Miracle of Prosperity on the New Thought Media Network.
Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience? Or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
And we're back. Welcome back to the Miracle of Prosperity here on the New Thought Media Network. And I've got with me Edward Miller, the author of Soul Power, Finding Your Soul Power. And we're talking about the X factor of prosperity and working the X factor of prosperity. Now, we established that the X factor of prosperity is forgiveness. And that forgiveness is not a verb that you do, but that forgiveness is an inner state of oneness with God that you attain. And we've had some questions over the break. Some folks have texted me some questions directly, and we'll address those as well as the questions that show up in the comment section here. So the first question we've had, Ed, is from a person who says, how can I love myself?
I love that question. It's an interesting question because it is loving yourself is a moment by moment awareness. It's not a destination. It's not an endpoint. It's a moment by moment awareness of what you believe you're still stuck in.
Tell us more about that.
Well, in truth, we're zero. We're the unmanifested. We're space. We're love. We're not any of these evaluations and assessments that our mind come up with. And when we can return to the truth of our nature, we can realize how free we are and how much access we have to everything, including ourselves and our relationships and our love. We start to see how when we're not kind to ourselves, we start to see when we're having our relationships with ourselves, we're selling ourselves short. We're not being generous to ourselves, and our minds are problematic, and we're stuck in problems that are just stories. When we're doing self-love is really a moment by moment awareness of what we're still stuck in.
Okay, that helps me understand.
That can't be true.
Yes, that helps me understand. So if I heard you correctly, you said the essence of what we are is love.
Yes.
We are not the unloving stories we have told ourselves about ourselves.
No.
I'm bad. I'm not this enough. I'm too much of that. We are not the
I should be that.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are not the unloving stories others have told us or implied to us. You're wrong for being this. You're wrong for being that. You should be guilty, and you are undeserving of your good because you are wrong and because you are bad.
What about this one? You should be more like that or more like them.
Exactly. Versus you should be what God created you to be with
Yeah.
his love. And so it sounds like we get to that zero. You call it zero. Some people call it oneness. A Course in Miracles calls it union with God, by going into meditation and feeling that sense of awesome, loving power that is our divine essence from within us. Now, we think that when we go into meditation, some beam of light shines down upon us and takes over us, and all of a sudden we become the beam of light that shine down upon us. No, 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 no. When we go into meditation, what we do is we allow the beam of light within us that had been covered up by our stories to come out and transcend our stories and transcend our perceived limitations and transcend the contractions that our stories have caused.
Absolutely. You know,
That's
once
why
we
they call
stop
it
judging
transcendental
ourselves so
wisdom.
harshly,
Yes,
Reverend Jim, and once we stop judging ourselves on all these
yes,
multiple levels,
yes.
we have nothing but love for ourselves. And
Because
in
we
that,
are nothing but love.
yeah, we're nothing but love. But
Yes.
but self-love is, I just want to make this statement again, because I want to leave your audience with this. It's only a moment by moment awareness.
Yes.
It's not a transcended state. It's not enlightenment. It's a moment by moment awareness of what we believe our minds are still stuck in. The stories, the unloving thoughts, the unsupportive beliefs. That's self-love.
Okay. And A Course in Miracles says that's a constant awareness of love's presence, where we forget love is there because, as my sister said, ego is edging God out.
Yes.
When we have an ego thought, it edges out the thoughts of love. The ego says you're not enough. The ego says this is not enough. The ego says you're wrong. And that edges out the truth of God, that you are simply God's light made manifest.
Absolutely. You know, but Reverend Jim, our minds are going to come up with many, many stories.
Yes.
None of those stories are true, but they're not wrong. You get me? None of the stories are true that our mind comes up with, but they're not wrong. So we don't have to punish ourselves for even having the thought.
Yes.
Thoughts are not wrong or right. They're just thoughts.
Yes. And they create their likeness.
Yeah, once we take the
Course
charge,
in Miracles lesson
I don't want
16.
to think like that. I don't want to see that. Once we take the charge of shame off our thinking, we can have the space to find the love. We have the space to find the love.
Yes. A Course in Miracles lesson 16 says exactly what you said, Ed. It said, thoughts are not wrong or right, good or bad. They're just thoughts. The thoughts of love create their reflection. The thoughts that are unloving create theirs.
Yes.
Don't judge any of them. Change the ones that create something you don't enjoy.
Or not so, I get change, but be aware. Awareness is our gift.
Right. And once we are aware of it, we can choose something else.
That's it.
Once you are aware, this is a thought that hurts me. This is a thought that hurts others.
Reverend Jim, you on
it
it now.
diminishes the light of God.
That's right.
This is a thought that distorts the light of God.
Yes.
So I can choose a different thought that enhances the light of God I am.
And by the way, if at that moment you can't even choose a different thought, just be aware. Be aware that I'm so stuck in my crap right now. My mind can't come up with a better story.
Yes.
But that awareness is creating the space.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Ed. That's wonderful. Appreciate that. Now, another question I get is from someone who was wrestling with this idea of self-love, because her idea of self-love has always been that self-love is ego-based and narcissistic.
Okay.
And she wants a little bit more help understanding the concept of self-love, where her perception of it has always been that self-love is selfish, ego-based, and narcissistic.
Yeah, I've heard, that the mind wants to believe that.
Yes.
The mind wants to believe that self-love is wrong because it's validating our ego. But self-love is just becoming aware of your ego. It's not validating, not saying my ego is right. It's just becoming aware that, you know what, I have thoughts, and some of them are not loving thoughts, And
Yes.
you know what I mean? And I need to be aware of that so that I can maybe let go and love. Maybe this time I can let go and love.
Uh-huh. And some people consider self-love to be being in that state of awareness of love's presence, so that
Yes.
we love even the egoistic parts of ourselves that
Hello. I agree with that. We can
yes,
love our egos. We just need to be
uh-huh,
aware they're not real
yes,
and they're not true.
uh-huh. Our ego can be like a baby having a tantrum in the mall.
Exactly.
Oh, you're just having a tantrum. You're having a
Exactly.
bad
Look at
day.
you, baby.
That's
You're
not who you are. You're
gonna be
still a
all right.
beautiful baby.
Exactly. You're gonna be
Yeah,
just fine.
yeah.
Express yourself and remember.
Yes, yes. So, and interestingly enough, somebody else I know came up with a very fascinating insight. And that insight was that self-love was not selfish. Self-love was one of the most selfless things you could do. Because when you are in alignment with and in a state of positive, balanced, loving energy and positive, balanced love for yourself, that love radiates outward and
Oh, it
supports
does. You know, let me tell you something, Reverend Jim. I am a loving guy. I love
yeah,
to go around and just love on anything and everybody. And my life is magical. I get
yeah,
grace. I get opportunities. I get intimacy
yes,
with people. I'm a
yes,
magnet for more love.
yes,
And let me say something to you. And I also know when I'm not a magnet for love too, when I'm caught in my ego and my thinking.
yes, yes, exactly. And you know the difference because one feels wonderful and the other feels like you're swimming with lead weights on your arms and legs.
Absolutely.
And that's when you know you have the choice. I love what you said earlier. I can always make the choice for love, and it is a constant vigilance that gives me an opportunity to continually make the choice for love when I become aware that I am sitting in a stew that is not love.
Yes.
That was wonderful, and I thank you for that. And so what we've covered today so far is just so enlightening, and I want to thank you for this, Ed Miller. We've covered Ho'oponopono more deeply, for Ho'oponopono is all about forgiveness. We've covered it in the context of forgiveness as a state that you attain, and Ho'oponopono enables you to attain that state of forgiveness where you are in unconditional loving acceptance for yourself, where you are in a state of love that radiates out to the world. And when you are in that state of love, that love emanates from you. And they go out into the universe and they grab their reflection and draw their reflection to you. So when you are in a state of forgiveness, which is synonymous with being in a state of love, it is inevitable that that love that you radiate goes out and attracts love to you.
It does.
Or it draws you to more loving
It
circumstances.
does.
And what is prosperity other than wondrous love and loving circumstances in all the circumstances of your life? I want you to think about that as we're going to go to final break and come back with a few surprises and a final prayer. So we're going to go to break now, and you are on the New Thought Media Network.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And we're back for the home stretch of the miracle of prosperity. So we've had 3 winners tonight. Joel, Carlisa, and Deanna. You will all get 3 copies of the audio version of The Soul of Prosperity. Now, this is not going to happen every week, so enjoy it. And we'll close with a couple of things. We'll have one more surprise. The minute I said that, I knew I was lying. What I'm going to do next week is I'm going to give away one more copy of the audio version of The Soul of Prosperity. The copy that I'm going to give away next week is to the person who invites the most people to the live version of it. So anybody you invite, tell them to hit in the comments, I was invited by Carlisa Coates, or I was invited by Deanna Eckel, or I was invited by Joel. And the person who invites the most people to watch us live will get a free copy of an audio version copy of The Soul of Prosperity. So look for the links, look for the Facebook page posts, and do that. So Ed, thank you for joining us tonight. What are you working on?
Oh, I've got a lot of things going on. I've just finished a class, a really exciting class I did, and I just enjoyed it so much, about reimagining ourselves. And we just went deep, because we're at a place in history right now where, we need to throw out the baby and the bathwater and start seeing our systems, our lives, our communities in a brand new way. So I'm always right now very excited about reimagining anything and everything, because it's that time now. We've got to throw out the old thinking and challenge a new way of being.
Yes.
So absolutely. I'm doing that. I'm working on some other projects, and I'm actually going to start my podcast soon also.
All righty. Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, that's so cool. Well, I'm working on a couple things. I just finished a big project, which I've mentioned once or twice this session, so I'm not going to mention it again. My classes are sold out, but you can get the audio or the recordings of my classes. And if you have an interest in that, just check out my website. Of course, you can also check out The Soul of Prosperity. The audio book is available on Amazon.com, as well as the hard copy and the Kindle version, the electronic version. So you can get it in all formats now. And I look forward to seeing you next week. But in the meantime, let's pray ourselves out. Let's just take a moment. Great source of light, we know is God. Great source of love, we know is God. Great source of peace, we know is God. Great source of sustenance, we know is God. Great source of ease, we know is God. Great source of healing, we know is God. Great source of all that is good, including ourselves, that we know is God. We call you forth right now. We call forth an awareness of your presence as the kind, loving, invisible arms that enfold us. We call you forth as the inspiration in our minds to remember our innocence, our perfection, and our holiness. We call you forth as the guiding light that guides us forward easily and effortlessly. We call you forth as the healing rays that give comfort to our wounded souls. We call you forth, God, as the light that lives within us, that comes out to play when we pray. We call you forth, God, as the light within us that is nurtured in our meditations. And we call you forth, God, as the light that is us, as we are one with you. Cause us, God, to be in a deep state of forgiveness. Cause us, God, to remember that forgiveness is not something that we do, that it is an internal state of oneness with you. For when we are in that state, it is the X factor of our prosperity. For when we are in that state, we are saying yes to your love and your light and your grace. When we are in that state, we are vibrating with your love so that we give your love permission to show up outside of us, God. So, God, as we continue to walk with you and talk with you, and as we are continually aware of your presence, lead us, guide us into a deeper state of forgiveness and a higher level of prosperity. And for this, we thank you. Let this be so, and so it is.
So it is.
And I want to thank you all for joining us tonight on the Miracle of Prosperity. We'll see you next week and every week at Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on the New Thought Media Network.